A legal means for the terminally ill to end their lives. Good evening. This is CTV News. I'm Rochelle Metzger.
And I'm Byron Scott. Members of a Senate committee got an earful today at a hearing on Bill 418. The legislation would allow those who are mentally capable but terminally ill with less than 6 months to live to get prescription drugs to end their lives. CTV's Sonia Shrivastava has more.
Well, certainly it is one of the most controversial bills that the General Assembly will see this year. And today, the members of the Senate Judicial Proceedings Committee will get to hear from both sides. Now, one of the changes that is in this legislation this year that they didn't have last year was that a patient and a doctor will be required to meet one-on-one at least one time before anything is prescribed. It was standing room only as the Senate Judiciary Committee opened the floor for a hearing. Passionate supporters wore yellow shirts, many of them from the group Compassion and Choices. Jonathan Hutto of Prince George's says he got involved in the issue after seeing his stepfather, a Vietnam vet, suffer toward the end of his life.
4 months before he died, he actually was saying to my mother he wished he could go now. He wished there was a way he could end his life, but he couldn't. So you see, essentially just wasted away in horrific pain. I mean, when he died, he must have been probably about 75 pounds almost.
But many opponents say it's not so simple. Dr. Francisco Hoyes works in the ICU and sees terminally ill patients every day.
We don't know what could happen to these patients whenever they take these medications at home. We don't know how they are going to react. Are they going to get short of breath? Are they going to develop seizures? Are they going to develop pain? We may cause more pain and suffering to these patients than benefit.
Under the bill, a patient whose survival rate is no more than 6 months would be eligible for these lethal drugs, which would have to be self-administered.
Eligibility, quote-unquote, eligibility criteria is not dying, as is represented. It's a terminal diagnosis, okay, terminal illness, which is defined as less than 6 months to live. Okay, that sounds, well, okay, what's the problem? The problem is it's determined without treatment.
People know when they have fought the last fight. This bill is basically for those folks with terminally aggressive cancers and other diseases, when they have done everything modern medicine can do for them.
Now, we should mention that this bill did not make it out of committee last year, but after the session was over, there have been about 3 meetings to see how the bill can be changed or strengthened. In Annapolis, I'm Sonia Shrivastava. Back to you.
Thank you, Sonia, for that report.
Public safety officials and artists are coming together to help stop the violence. At a summit this afternoon, spiritual leaders, law enforcement, and hip-hop entertainers collaborated on ideas to help keep youth off the streets.
It's very important because what it does, it starts connection and build bridges between all parties that have the power to make a change and effect. But without the conversation, there can't be a change.
What would you like to see come from this?
What I like to see is that everything that was spoken about be put into action. That everything that we talked about today in this room will start to unfold as we envision it and we see it come to fruition, that it will make an impact in our community, that the impact that we have will also affect our community, that they that are affected can affect even more people.
The summit was facilitated by the Prince George's Human Relations Commission. Well, Deonte Carraway will soon face a judge. The 22-year-old teacher's assistant is accused of producing child pornography at Judge Sylvania Woods Elementary School and 3 other locations. Carraway is facing both federal and state charges. His initial appearance is scheduled for Friday, March 4th at the U.S. District Court in Greenbelt. Investigators have now identified 17 victims, all between the ages of 9 and 12.
And Metro riders will see more security. General Manager Paul Weidefeld and Transit Police Chief Ron Pavlik say the transit agency will deploy more patrol officers on all buses, trains, and on station platforms. Commuters can expect to see more police during late afternoon and evening rush hours. Some riders at the Largo Metro station have mixed feelings about the changes.
People are going to do what they want to do regardless of the law. So them being here is just pointless because they're not really stopping anything from happening. They always get to the scene at the last minute.
It brings protection and knowing that they're there, that if something ends up happening, that they're there to control the situation.
And the increased security comes days after a rider was shot on board a Green Line train at the Anacostia station. While you're watching CTV News, I'm Byron Scott.
And I'm Rochelle Metzger.